Hey, thanks for spending a few moments with Phil. Got a question for you right off the bat. Are you a complainer? How often do you complain? How about this one? What percentage of your daily conversation would you say is complaining? Is complaining a big deal? Would you consider complaining wrong? Would you consider complaining wrong in the eyes of God? Eek. If so, is it a big deal? Or maybe just a small deal? A sin, or maybe a sinette? I made that word up myself. If you've had a look at your Bible lately, and I know you own one, okay, way back in the biblical book of Numbers, a most unpleasant experience happens to the people of Israel, and it took place for the most innocuous of reasons. They were complaining. So I'm looking at Numbers chapter 11, beginning right at verse 1. I'm just going to read 2 or 3 verses here. Now the people complained about their hardship in the hearing of the Lord. And when he heard them, his anger was aroused. Then fire from the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. When the people cried out to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. Let me stop and say, I think there is a legitimate place for crying out to God, and then there's simply complaining. After Moses had prayed, we find this further in the text, and the fire had burned down, well, then things went back to normal. That is, the people went back to complaining, generally about the food supply, and although God shows great patience and great provision, ultimately it would result in poor consequences for the Israelite people. So back to my original inquiry. Are you or I complainers? There's a great book out there written by a gentleman named Will Bowen called A Complaint-Free World. Will Bowen, as my memory serves me, was a pastor, now a corporate speaker, who came up with the idea of challenging his church to try not to complain for 21 days. 21 days! I think he got the number 21 somewhere. He had read that it took 21 days to break a habit or to create a new habit. Oh, and here's the kicker. Anyone who took the challenge, if they complained within that 21-day period, well, they had to start the challenge all over again. It took the average parishioner 3 to 4 months to complete the challenge. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking there are times when there is a legitimate need to complain. I concur, but I'm thinking, this is my own statistic, I'm thinking that about 80 or maybe even 90% of our complaints are simply grousing or grumbling or nitpicking or fault finding or moaning. I know that's true in my own life, so I'm wondering, can I go, let's say, 3 days or 2 days without complaining? This is not a requirement or demand, just a quiet test to see how I might or you might do. Again, how about you? How long could you go without complaining? It might be something to consider. Here's one more thing to think about. From my readings, those people who break free from habitual complaining actually live much happier lives. Indeed, Will Bowen says, you can't complain your way to health, happiness, and success. Well, thanks for spending a few minutes with Phil. Many blessings.